Welcome to Sisters in Crime's Murder Monday, where authors talk about their crime craft. My name's Jack, and I'm a bibliophile, a copywriter, occasional broadcaster, and members of Sisters in Crime Australia, where we've been celebrating women's crime writing since 1991. My guest for this month's Murder Monday is best-selling author Ovidia Yu. Hello, Ovidia.
Hi, Jack. Hi, everybody.
Ovidia Yu is one of Singapore's best known and most acclaimed writers, recently inducted into the Singapore Women's Hall of Fame, and holds the title
Yeah.
of Singapore's first truly feminist writer. Ovidia is the author of the wonderful and delicious Auntie Lee mysteries, starring the unstoppable Auntie Rosie Lee, the beautifully written Crown Colony crime series that begins in Singapore in 1936 and runs across the war years. As a playwright, she's had over 30 of her plays produced. She's also the author of an
Yeah.
amazing collection of award-winning short stories, a children's book called The Mud Skipper. And Ovidia, could you please give us the elevator pitch for the Unsung Tree Mystery, which is the latest series featuring Chen Su Lin, which is out later this year?
Okay. Thank you, Jack.
That was like
I love
a really long introduction. Sorry.
I really, really like that. I'm going to record and use that as my CV. The Angsana tree. Okay, if you grew up in Singapore, you know Angsana seeds, which is these little, they look like little stingrays, except without the tails. You can string them on beads. And you know the Angsana trees bloom because everything turns yellow for one day and then they all fall. So that's the subject for the next tree that's coming out, because you know when people die, because there's Angsana blossoms. He couldn't have died before the trees bloom, and he couldn't have died after, or there wouldn't have been the flowers there. But anyway, he's dead, and there's a string of little Angsana love beads in his hand. So Sulin finds it, and she tries to solve the mystery. And no, Prashanti doesn't die, so don't worry. I know you asked about.
It's like I did ask that beforehand because I'm just like, no, I love Prashanti.
Another friend. She has more than one friend.
I know. I shouldn't be so down on Celia.
Okay. No, that's okay. I'm glad you're worried about Prashanti. She's getting married, but just not yet.
Alrighty, so here we go. Let's start with the questions. And the first one is, what is your writing routine?
Oh, okay. I'll give you an ideal routine. It doesn't always happen.
It's okay.
I usually wake up between 5 and 6 a.m. I'll get up. I'll start breakfast on the stove and then leave it there to sit, because oatmeal can sit indefinitely. And then I'll write for like between 45 minutes and an hour on the computer. It's the brain dump, the windscreen wiper there from 750 words. So I usually write down, today I need to sort out this. I need to work that out. So-and-so has to come on. If I'm going to do this, I need to introduce so-and-so earlier. That's just brain dump time. So it's my 750 words that usually goes on to about 2,000 words. That takes about, up to an hour. Then you have breakfast. While doing Duolingo, I know it's tacky, but it's this language learning thing. It scrubs my brain. I'm trying to learn French, Chinese, and a bit of Korean.
All three.
So, yeah, I mean, different times, not at the same time.
No, I'm glad you qualified that.
So,
but still, three new languages.
Yeah, because Duolingo's fun. So it's like games, and then you think you're solving puzzles, you're actually learning grammar, which is an easier way to learn. And then they give you points. So you're like the Pat's like good girl, you did Spartan, you got 5 right in a row, which doesn't happen very often. And then there's then that's breakfast. Then ideally I go to yoga 3 times a week, Pilates once or twice a week. So that's like that's about an hour. The problem is it's an hour of traveling time to get to yoga and back. So the time on the transport is my reading time. So I get about 2 hours of reading on the bus there on the bay, which is great, because if I sit down at home, I don't always get to stick to book. But if you're on a bus, there's nothing else to do. So you read. So I get my reading done there. And then it's lunch. Being a lazy person, I buy dinner, so I don't have to cook. And then ideally, again, I'd write from like 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. or 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., depending how it goes. And then it's dinner, plants, turtle. I don't have dogs anymore, so no dog walking. And try to get to bed to read. And I try to read in French at night, because it switches my brain up. If you read in English, then you keep thinking, I want to do this, I want to steal that. I can twist this around. But if you read in French, all you're trying to do is, let me understand that sentence. And I read that some people actually learn English through reading. So if they can learn English through reading, I mean, have you heard of Sherry Thomas? She's an American writer who what?
Yeah.
She's lovely. I mean, she came to America, not speaking much English, and she learned to read. And she read, I think, Georgette Heyer, and now she's a writer of the Lady Sherlock books. She's incredible.
Wow.
So she can do that. I can read Hercule Poirot in French, right? So I try to do that. And I'm cheating because I know them practically by heart. So when you can sort of guess what's happening. And then, I mean, that's it. Oh, sorry, was that more than you asked for?
No, that's incredible. And that's a very full-on writing. And I love the fact that you're reading in French. So
but it doesn't always work. I mean, a lot of the time it's, but and you know it in your head, so you sort of can guess. But I suppose that helps.
Still, I think that's incredible. Do you think women write different crime stories to men?
No, I'm going to cheat that. I think everybody writes different crime stories, but at the one extreme, you've got the men writing Jack Reacher with no emotions, and on the other hand, you've got cozies with she found a dead body, and then she went and made scones, and here's the recipe. So they're kind of the opposite extremes, and I think most of us fit somewhere in the center. Sometimes you write more man things, sometimes you write more comfort things, but it's like you read. Sometimes you want to read. Like I just read James Patterson, and that was very nice because it was just what I needed then. Have you read the newest, the Holmes, Marple and Poe? I loved it. Actually, I picked it up because of the Holmes, Marple and Poe names, but was surprised how much I liked it. But on the other hand, you've got, like Ellery Adams, the books by the bay, because everything's nice and they read books and then they try to write, which is always nice reading about people trying to write and solving murders at the same time because it doesn't happen to you.
Yes.
So your question was, do men and women write differently? Yes and no, because some women write like men, but then they are still women. So are they women writing as men? And okay, actually, that's a very interesting question. I don't think I write like a man, but I like men readers. So I mean, men writers. So how does that work? Are you writing as a man or a woman?
I think everything's so subjective, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. It's like, are you writing as a straight person or as a gay person? You can't tell because unless you're actually writing while you're in bed with someone, it doesn't really count, right? Also, is that one of the things you need to scratch up maybe? But it shouldn't make a difference, I think. You're writing for people and you're writing to people. So if you've got readers in mind, you write to them in a way, like you talk differently to different people. You talk to your mum differently from how you talk to your best friend.
Yep.
I know there are people who say their moms are their best friends. That hasn't happened to me, but it would be different. And you're telling the same story. You're not lying. You're just approaching it differently, right?
Yes.
You might hide certain parts. Like I don't really talk about sex and violence much because I wouldn't tell my mom. And frankly, I don't like reading about them that much. It's so distracting from what you're really interested in the story. So but I skip the parts about clothes and food sometimes too. So sorry.
No, that's okay. I was like, well, no, because Auntie Lee's all about food.
Auntie Lee likes food, but she talks about food to people. She's like, if you've ever come to Singapore, you go to Violet Boon's kitchen. It's all food, but yet she's a fascinating person, you see. It's not just food, it's just that part of her is food. So when she's talking about herself, the food comes through. So she's not saying, okay, all I do talk about is food. It's just her. And it comes out of a love of people, I think. And I try to make that Auntie Lee too. She connects with people through food. Like if I met you, we might talk about books, but if we were foodies, we talk about food.
Very true. How many drafts do you do before handing it in?
Oh God. I don't know how you count a draft because I might start up to, the current one I'm writing, I started it like 2 years ago. So that was one draft that didn't quite work, but it stopped halfway. So it's not a full draft. Then I did another draft of it. Then last NaNoWriMo, I did one more full draft of it because then you have to get at least 50,000 words in.
Yes.
But then I'm doing another, and then from there you do the outline. The worst I've done, I think, is 17 drafts. The lightest I've done was 3 because that was an emergency when I was just starting and I had gone to, I think, America to say, here's my first book, it's coming out. And then the lovely editor says, okay, we are ready to see the next one in about, 3 months. And I was like, what? So I wrote first outline draft on the plane on the way back. Luckily, it's a long flight.
Yes.
So that was fun. And I got that done in 3 months. I don't think it's my best book. I could never do that again, but you realize you can. So
yes. Yeah, well, there's nothing like a deadline to get you moving.
Yeah, I love deadlines. I think that's why ex-reporters and ex-journalists do so well. They just sit down and do it. And I'm trying to instill that in myself. It hasn't happened yet because you can't finish it, but then you look at it and you think, one more round. I just need to change that. I don't like what she said there. The problem is you read other people's books and you want to rewrite them too, because I mean, that's not your business, but I would like it better if that happened. And why did she do this? And it happens with TV too. It's very hard watching TV because you want to rewrite everything. Oh, sorry. Again, I got away from your question.
Oh, no, that's fantastic.
Okay,
I mean, this is
17 and 3.
Yeah, this is what it's all about. What is your top writing tip?
My what writing tip?
Top writing tip. Number one writing tip.
I think what helps me most is just get it down. It doesn't have to be in sequence. It doesn't have to be good, but just do a vomit draft, put it down. Even if you look at it and think, yuck, you're one step ahead from not having put it down, because in there it's just a mess. But it helps to put down, oh dear. Maybe it might be Evernote, actually. Have you heard of Evernote, the app?
Yes.
I've got it on my phone, I've got it on my iPad, I've got it on my computer. So when I'm out, I just dictate a note into it every time I think of something. Then you come home and type them all in. So you might type them in and say it's rubbish, but you might type them in and say, okay, this works and this is where I can slot it in. It helps to have several projects going at the same time because you can decide which of them to use it in. So when you read something or you see someone or you get angry with something out there, instead of getting in and whacking someone on the head, you just vent it to your Evernote, because there's the dictation thing, you see. So you can write it in, and what you'd really like to do that to that person, but you don't want to get caught. So you'd really like it if this happened, and then after that happened, and then they got that comeuppance, which has to be due to their own hubris and not you being violent with them or anything like that. So you get that all in, and suddenly you've got a plot, or you've got a twist, or you've got a way of getting rid of a minor character who's irritating. And I really hope that, because I've got all these notches in Evernote in my files, and then I can just, when I need a moment, I come back home. This is the evening thing when I'm tired. Like usually the 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. session, I clear my Evernote notes and I put them into where they belong, or just keep in mind for future. So I think that would be taking notes.
Taking notes and getting it down.
Yeah, keeping notes and processing them. Otherwise, you come back and you can't remember what it was. So you need to process the same day or the day later. I think that really helps.
That sounds a bit like me. I've got notebooks full of random sentences and just I wonder what that was about.
But it works, right?
Yeah.
You have to try it. Yeah.
How much of you is in your characters?
A lot, but yet not that much, because I think it's not so much me, since I'm not that very interesting, but it's my take on people I see, I think. So it's my interpretation. So in a way that everything is me and my interpretation that I'm trying to force on people. But I'm trying to use writing, I mean, for my own good too, to see people differently from the inside. So especially villains, people I see as villains, you try to see from their side, how was it? I try to write from the Japanese point of view in the three books also, because they weren't all bad guys. Some of them were just, national servicemen between 17 and 19 years old, and they took me from my farm and sent me, and I'm missing my mom and my sisters. And they weren't really bad guys, and yet we just think they're all horrible, but that's not really true. So it's my interpretation of things, but I'm very aware I'm seeing it through my filter, and I try to get out of my head. That's why sometimes I try to read books that I hate just to see how it is from somebody else's POV. So
what is the hardest part about being a writer?
Probably just getting yourself to sit down and do it, because there's so many more things that are interesting. And every time you're writing, you get wormholes coming in, and that's rabbit holes. Wormholes take you to other dimensions, which would be interesting too. It's staying focused, because and even when you're writing one project, you keep thinking this would work, that would work, and what do I do with this? Like I usually come up with when you get stuck, what are the 10 things that could happen? Ridiculous things, because usually the first three ridiculous things are ridiculous, and then 4, 5 are maybe 6, 7. So you get all these things, but the problem is when you've found out what you need to work in this spot, then you go back and look at 1, 2, and 3 and think, if I did a fantasy, I could use that. If I used what I could use that. And you want to go off and start all these projects, so you'd have like 52 projects half written, which you can't do, so you've got to put it in the keep in mind file and finish the current work in progress that now feels so dull compared to all the possibilities, because it's like why people are unfaithful in marriages, right? Because everything looks exciting on the outside, even though you're comfortable here and you have to live with it. But you keep wanting to venture, so sometimes you've got to say, no, I won't, or I will only after I've finished this, which I mean in writing, not in marriage. So you go down and the sticking to the work in progress is the hardest, but it turns out worthwhile, I think, because you finish something. You've got to go through the whole cycle, and then if it still stinks, it's meant to sting. Yeah.
Well, it just goes in the drawer, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Who are your writing inspirations?
Oh God. I'd start with Agatha Christie. She's almost like a great grandma. You don't want to write exactly like her, but if not for her, you wouldn't exist the way you are. And I like the range of different things she wrote. That's quite incredible. In terms of productivity, James Patterson, because that man is inhuman. I mean, he's better than AI, the way things come out of him. His latest book that I read, The Holmes, Marple and Poe, I really like that because it's got stuff from Sherlock Holmes, it's got stuff from Dupin, it's got stuff from Miss Marple, and yet it's modern day, so that was really fun. I also like J.D. Robb. I know some people don't like me to like her, but I really love J.D. Robb. I mean, the in-depth books. Do you like them?
You can't be judged for the books you like, really, can you?
Yeah, people do judge you because you should read more local Singapore writing and more historical stuff and more stuff. But then I really love the in-depth books because she's funny, you see, and I like something that can make you laugh and yet make you think about serious things. So that works for me. And okay, Nora Roberts was J.D. Robb. I really admire her discipline because even on holiday, she works up for like 90 minutes on the elliptical a day. And I really hate her for that, but I admire her at the same time. How do people live like that and write books and never mind. So admire and hate at the same time. But okay, sorry.
No, it's still an inspiration. Do you have a favorite food when you write?
A favorite food? A favorite tea, does that count?
Absolutely. What's your favorite tea when you write?
This one is ginger, chamomile, and it's supposed to be a healthy tea. You buy it in tea bags from the shop in the market next to the corner. It's supposed to be organic. I can't remember the name. It's something in Chinese. I don't think it will work for you. But it's a loose leaf and it works because you put it in here and then you just drink it all day, which helps with the water content because you start in the morning and every time you take a Pomodoro break, you have to fill it up. So you hydrate it and it gets more and more dilute through the day because you're using one lot of tea leaves. It's not that funny, is it?
My coffee thermos.
What?
We're almost out of time. I can't believe how fast that's gone. But
that was fun actually.
A final question for you. How would you get away with murder?
Oh, me, not the writer.
You.
Oh, I know. I'd use poison, I think, because I'm alert. I have a very bad, a very good digestive system. If anything funny comes in, I tend to throw up right away. I mean, wait. I'm getting to the point. So I'd use poison and I'd put it in something we're both eating. And then I would throw up and not die, and he or she would die, you see. And it wouldn't be my fault because I also got poisoned, but I upchucked it before it reached my stomach and digestive system. So I probably just have a fever for 3 days and choke a bit, but they would choke and suffocate and die right away because their throats would swell up. How's that? I think I get away with it too, but then I'd have to sit down and eat with them, which doesn't really work. But you see, if we shared the same food, I wouldn't be so suspected, right?
Right. So you know what? That has to be the most candid answer that I've ever had. That is brilliant.
I haven't actually done it yet. Like, why? What do you normally get? I mean,
Ovidia, you're awesome. Thank you so much. I'm really chuffed to be able to bring Auntie Lee and Celine to an Australian audience.
Thank you very much.
Murder Monday interviews are available on Sisters in Crime YouTube channel at 6 p.m. once a month on a Monday. We've been speaking with Ovidia Yu for Auntie Lee and the Tree series. Ovidia, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jacq. It was fun.